Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to my spoiler-filled review and thoughts on Halloween Ends. Now, I have done a spoiler-free review for that. If you're not interested in spoilers at all, you can head over and check out my spoiler-free review, which I will link at the end of this video, if that's what you want. My advice to you, obviously, is if you haven't seen the film, do not watch this review because it is going to be jam-packed full of spoilers. I did say when I did my spoiler-free review that I was considering waiting a day or two and doing a spoiler-filled review, because I felt like it's one of those films that you obviously don't want to spoil initially, but it's also one of those films that you want to talk about a little bit. And I don't often do spoiler-filled reviews, but I feel as though this one kind of warrants it. Now, as I predicted in my spoiler-free review, this film is certainly dividing audiences, to say the least. Probably leaning more on the negative side, I would suggest. Some scores are pretty brutal. And I think that had to be expected, really. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the story here. Now, essentially, the film opens with a new character called Corey, and it's set in 2019, a year after the events of Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. Michael Myers has gone missing for 4 years, apparently, but this is like in 2019. So we've got this young man, Corey, who is babysitting this brat, basically. This brat pulls a prank on him, locks him in a room. Corey panics, boots the door open, that then smashes into this kid who tumbles down 5 flights of stairs and is killed in front of his parents. Corey is then... It then jumps like 3 years later. Corey obviously got off with a fairly light sentence because essentially it wasn't his fault, you know what I mean? He didn't kill the kid on purpose. But the town basically has ostracised him. He's an outcast now, as far as the town's concerned. And this is a town that has been traumatised by Michael Myers for decades. So it doesn't suffer this sort of thing particularly well. So he's bullied, he's ostracised, everybody hates the kid. And he's really struggling. He meets Laura, who defends him from these local bullies. And then kind of introduces him to her granddaughter, Alison, who falls in love with him, basically. But this harassment and this bullying from the locals keeps up its pace with Corey, to the point where he ends up essentially like falling down into like this sewerage area after being bullied and beaten up and chucked over like a bridge type thing. And there, after a closer examination, he discovers Michael Myers' lair, who he's basically been there for 4 years, struggling really because he was battered and bruised and near death at the end of Halloween Kills. Michael Myers, he absolutely got battered at the end of that film. So he's been kind of 4 years trying to regain his strength, so to speak, I think. At least that's the way I perceive it. He's very weak, Michael Myers. And he grabs this Corey, starts strangling him. But rather than finishing the job, and this is how I interpreted it, there's some kind of realization from Corey and Michael to some degree that they're kind of kindred spirits. Michael lets him go, and Corey then immediately goes on to kill like a homeless person outside this Michael's lair, and then starts getting even more bitter and even more poisoned towards the people of the town, and he drags in Laurie's granddaughter Alison along the way. Yeah, he basically wants to burn the world at this point. He's had enough. And he's fascinated by Michael. He goes back, kind of lures someone back to Michael's lair. Michael kills this person with the assistance of Corey. It seems like Michael is starting to gain his strength. Corey then steals Michael's mask and goes on a killing spree, killing everybody that's wronged him over the last couple of years, sort of thing. This kind of culminates in Laurie understanding and figuring out what's going on. She can see in Corey's eyes the same look that she got from Michael Myers. She knows he's heading down a very, very dark path, and she tries to intervene and stop him from dragging her granddaughter into this, but it's too late. She's fallen for him. And ultimately, it ends with like a confrontation between Corey and Laurie Strode, that kind of backfires because it looks like Laurie kills him, and the granddaughter sees this. And then Michael, who is not happy that Corey stole his mask, ventures out from his lair and returns to Laurie's house with a final confrontation between Michael and Laurie that ends in Michael's death, basically. Because he is in a weakened state, so he's not up to the kind of same power he was like in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. He does seem a lot weaker in this film, or certainly a weakened state. So she manages to get the better of him. She stabs him multiple times. She slits his throat. She slits his wrists. The whole shebang. They tie him to the top of a car, drive him through the town. The whole town comes out to witness this. And then he gets basically chucked in a grinder at the scrapyard, chewed to bits. That's the end of Michael. Everyone gets on with life at the end of it. So that's essentially what happens in Halloween Kills. Those are the beats of the story anyway. So we've got this Corey character who essentially is traumatized. Now all three of these films have had this familiar thread of trauma very firmly embedded into each of the film. The first one in 2018 was Laurie's trauma, basically. The second one was the town's trauma to a large degree, including Laurie's as well. And this one, it's like a culmination of all of that. You've got Laurie's, you've got the granddaughters, you've got the towns, you've got Corey's. It's like a crescendo of trauma almost, you know what I mean? So they have stayed true to, certainly David Gordon Green has stayed true to his initial message of trauma, which I think is admirable. But I can see how Michael Myers fans who just wanted to come into this film and see him, doing what Michael Myers does, are going to be disappointed, because I think does he get 3 kills in this film? And when you consider how many kills he got in the last one, that's a decline, to say the least. But also when you consider the kills that he got in the original Halloween, which weren't that many, it's kind of on par. So I thought it was quite brave and bold what they did here in this one. But I can also understand why Halloween fanboys are going apeshit, so to speak. The more I've thought about my initial score for this one was 7 out of 10, which I do think is still a fair score. After reflecting on it a little bit more, I'm warming up to the film a little bit more, because I do think it's not tried to just do a brainless slasher that would just get forgotten. I think this is actually, this Halloween trilogy, I think, will be discussed by horror fans for many years to come. Although I have no doubt it will be rebooted again at some point in the next 2 or 3 years. But I do think this series of films, well, it's not just a trilogy, because the original Halloween is included in these films, but David Gordon Green's trilogy, I think, will be discussed by film fans and horror fans for a number of years to come, either positively or negatively. So it is getting some kind of emotion out of people, certainly. Some of it not the right ones, but some of it I do think it is generating discussion. And when you actually think about the film and look at the underlying message, it does have something to say. So yeah, I think I'm warming to this film a little bit more. I do think when you watch them all three back to back, I do think they'll kind of slot in together a bit better. I think, yeah, I do think what they've done here is pretty decent. So yeah, that's my spoiler-filled feedback and thoughts on Halloween Ends. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this film are, and let me know what your thoughts of the trilogy are overall that David Gordon Green gave us. I think he's actually delivered something pretty good overall, even though I do think some people will I suppose rightfully think it's flawed at the same time. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this spoiler-filled review. I'll be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.